Darryl.
Good.
Yeah, so what do they got in the front? Okay, I'm going to do a brief intro of who all is with us today. Start to my left here. This is Deborah Yenny, one of our assistant parish attorneys who was brought in to work on the animal shelter and issues over there. Then we have Michelle Morrell, my Deputy Chief Operating Officer, Dr. Diane Roussel, one of my Chief Administrative Assistants, Ms. Patty Hedgewood, who is the new Interim Animal Shelter Director, Mr. Darryl Ward, who's one of my CAAs, Mitch Terrio, the Drainage Director, Jose Gonzalez, his boss, the Public Works Director, Brett Todd, our Storage Director, and Mike Power, another one of my Chief Administrative Assistants. And I want to thank the two council members for joining us. Y'all are more than welcome to stand if you'd like. Jefferson Parish weathered this weekend's torrential rains, but not without incident. Over 2 days, 4 to 6 inches of rain accumulated throughout the parish, but we have had isolated areas hit much harder. Some areas of the East Bank took nearly 2 inches of rain in 15 minutes. This is what a 25-year storm event would produce. In total, the East Bank received 3 to 3.5 inches of rain within an hour, which is roughly a 10-year storm event. Over the same period of time on the West Bank of Jefferson Parish, they received 2 to 2.5 inches of rain in an hour. All 4 airport pumps pumped to the river, Pontiff Playground, functioned without incident, and we had no reported issues with the New Orleans Sewerage and Water Board-owned pump station number 6. Pumps can handle, as everyone knows, 1 inch of rain the first hour and a ½ inch of rain every hour after that, as previously stated. Some pumping capacity was overwhelmed with torrential rain in a short period of time. We closed some roads due to flash flooding, and I should note that our streets are sometimes designed to collect overflow rainwater to prevent rainwater from entering properties. Some information was released yesterday that a road may have collapsed, but that was not the case. A large amount of mud from an adjacent property ran onto the road, but there was no road failure. I am proud of the work done by our team. We activated 105 standby employees in drainage, sewerage, streets, parkways, and the water department. We were well prepared for the storm that hit. During my term, we have cleaned over 73,000 catch basins, nearly 12,000 drop inlets, and more than 3,000 manholes. We have consistently cleaned over 900,000 linear feet of drain lines. We replaced 11 drainage pumps, installed 24 new pumps, and built 6 new pump stations. We are currently working right now on $9.6 million of additional drainage projects throughout the parish because rising floodwaters is an ongoing focus of this administration and this council. In District 1, we are working on the Goose Bayou Pump Station and the Fisher Basin 2 levee system. In Councilman Johnston's District 2, we are working on the Celotex area drainage, the Russell Street ditch drain line. In District 3, we are working on the South Jamie drainage line improvements. In District 4, we are working on the Westgate Pump Station and Canal 10 at West Esplanade culvert replacement. And in the combined Districts 4 and Councilman Van Rankin's District 5, we are working on the Elmwood Pump Station engine replacement. We have $22 million of projects under design that will go out for bid by the end of the year. Again, in Councilman Johnston's District 2, Westwego Pump Station number 1 improvements and the Mason Ditch drainage improvements. In District 3, Lake Catawatchee Pump Station improvements. In District 4, Airline Park North Pump Station. In District 5, Veterans Pump Stations and West Esplanade Pump Stations at the 17th Street Canal. A complete list of these projects will be provided to you by Samantha DeCastro, our Public Information Office. Drainage improvements directly impact the quality of life for our residents of Jefferson Parish and will remain a top priority of this administration. I will further note one area of frustration. As your top administrator, it has been my job to properly manage funding to protect this parish. Under a motion by former Councilman Chris Roberts, I thought it was very short-sighted when he convinced the council to return tax dollars already approved by the voters. The voters of Jefferson Parish in October of 2016 renewed a $6 mil property tax for improved drainage. It wasn't a close vote that was mentioned at one of the previous council meetings. Nearly 75% of the people voted in favor of this increase. That's because voters want us to invest in better drainage. But in an effort to grandstand and patronize, a councilman who was more concerned about grabbing headlines instead of protecting the parish from flood control recommended that we don't use all 6 mil and keep the rate at 4.6 mils. This decision cost the parish $40 million that should be used to enhance drainage infrastructure improvements. If we would have those funds available, we'd be working on a pump to the river projects in Old Metairie and Old Jefferson that would have helped take water from Metairie Road and its subdivisions. We have a $100 million priority list, not a wish list, a priority list for drainage improvement projects. Telling voters that we saved money on something as critical as drainage is the worst kind of grandstanding. The pulse of the people was that they overwhelmingly, in a 3-to-1 margin, voted to pay for additional drainage improvements, and one politician convinced 5 other colleagues that we could get away with less. We can't, we shouldn't, and we must invest our money in strengthening the drainage because the environment we live in and the potential floodwaters that we must rise above. Okay, I'm now off my soapbox on villages. In an unrelated manner, today, at approximately 11:30, I asked Jefferson Parish Housing Authority Executive Director Wayne Woods for his resignation. He answers to the Housing Authority Board, but in subsequent meetings on March 27th of 2017, the U.S. Housing and Urban Development Department, or HUD, completed a compliance monitoring review of the Housing Authority of Jefferson Parish with 16 findings were issued. We have learned that as of today, those findings have not been resolved. Finances for 2016 and 2018 have not been completed. As a result, HUD has informed us that they are prepared to place the Housing Authority into receivership. I will be asking the council for their approval to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with the Housing Authority to get it back into compliance. I'm trying to avoid us from going into receivership and getting us out of zero threshold. There has been too much inaction and too much time given. It is time to take action and restore the Housing Authority to full compliance with HUD guidelines. And lastly, today I am proud to provide some good news. I have named Patty Hedgewood the interim director of the animal shelter. Patty comes to us from Best Friends Animal Society, which is a leading national organization dedicated to ending the killing of dogs and cats in America's shelters. Patty is a native of New Orleans, and she played a large role in helping many animals during the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina, which led to her recruitment with the Best Friends Animal Society. Patty will focus on the implementing standard operational procedures and streamlining data into one system that allows us to pinpoint where our needs are. I'm glad to have Patty on board, and we can look forward to her expertise as we bring this shelter back to where it needs to be. And at this point, we'll be happy to answer any questions.
Parish President Yenny, to the parish's knowledge, did water enter any home?
I know we have a report of one structure that was reported to us. And we have asked on social media for any reports to go to our drainage department, because we put that into our floodplain management system, and that is how we pinpoint areas and problems we have. That's how we've pinpointed the projects that I mentioned in this talk today. Those areas are all areas we know are prone to flooding, and we just got moved into a Class 5 community rating system. We have some of the best flood insurance available in the state, and we want to make sure we continue with that. So those areas where we know there are problems is where we're going to do projects.
I want to be accurate. Is it, you say a structure, but is it a house? Is it business? Or do you know?
Well, let me just say, I got a call as I was walking to come up here. The address was on Severn. Typically, a lot of times when we get complaints about structural flooding and we actually go out to investigate what happened, a lot of the times it's a converted garage that's lower than the main slab of the house, or the water came into the house through another means from the backyard, as opposed to the water rising in the street and coming into the house. So that being said, we haven't vetted that yet. So
what about vehicles? Any tally?
I did see a Facebook post from an area in Old Metairie that said that there were some cars a car or two that had gotten water, but again, I haven't officially, we haven't gotten any calls other than that.
So it sounds like even though more rain fell than anticipated, and the system may have seemed overwhelmed at times, it doesn't seem like there was a lot of property in peril.
Right. The bulk of the complaints are street flooding that, is temporary and if we can get by without any structure flooding and the temporary inconvenience of having water in the streets, again, that's something we're working to try to solve as well. But at this point, with only isolated instances of structure flooding, that's just a testament to all the improvements that have been made in the last years.
So I have a question. So there's a church in Old Metairie, Celebration Church, that said they took on a lot of water, have about $150,000 in estimated damages from the flooding yesterday. I don't know if that was the structure that you were referring to, but either way, their concern is they said they noticed the moment that the pumps kicked on because the water just started draining, and their concern is that it wasn't turned on soon enough. I know it's really an art form and when you flip the switch and turn the pumps on, but they said they don't think it was turned on soon enough, and they saw the water just sitting there for a long period of time, and then they just saw that second that it all started to go down. I don't know if there's any response to that.
Now, that area drains in a big box culvert down Airline Highway to the 17th Street Canal, which is drains to the pump station number 6. So, we did check with New Orleans and determined that they were actually operating pumps well before the rain even started. They had guys there from earlier in the morning. We had about 2.5 inches of rain before the 4:30 event. So they actually did what they're supposed to do. A lot of times what people don't understand is, the pumps can only move so much water, and if it's raining hard enough like it was, okay, even though those pumps are discharging water at a great volume, there's still more water coming in than there is going out. So the perception is that the water's not moving. And I can guarantee you, when the rain began to slack, that's when they saw the water starting to go down. It's not that that's when the pumps were turned on. That's the point where we had more water going out than there was coming in. So, but we definitely verified not only New Orleans, but our own pumps, that we had guys there, same as New Orleans, since early that morning, and had pumps going before the rain even started. So
Okay, so you believe that in most, I don't know if it's every case or most cases, but that the pumps were turned on before the rain even started to come?
yes.
Okay.
They were still pumping from the night before, and they had guys in the stations with several pumps going, and as the rain, began to, actually before the rain hit, they were there and ready to turn on. They can only turn on so many pumps depending on the elevation at the station. So as that water began to rise, they began to turn on additional pumps. It's all standard procedure even for us.
So not all were turned on prior to the weather event, then some were?
Can't do that. If you turn them all on without any rain, then you damage the pumps. So they basically turn on the pumps as the water begins to rise to make sure that you can't have too many pumps going with not enough water coming in, or the elevation will drop and you'll develop a lot of problems with those pumps.
You think everything was turned on at the right time when it was?
Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm.
So is it possible that there was water to enter homes or businesses and it just hasn't been reported to your?
Yeah, this is the first I'm hearing about Celebration Church, but we'll certainly contact them and, again, vet that, look at where the water came from, and that's the first I've ever heard of that.
That
Okay.
show, what
Okay.
looks like a lot of water.
We heard from some nursing homes and areas.
Okay.
If I can ask you, Mr. Yenny, as it relates to Mr. Woods, do you think he broke the law in any way?
No, I wouldn't say there's any laws violated. I would just say what he was requested to do wasn't done. I would say it was a lot of inaction by the executive director. I don't know of any broken laws or anything like that. HUD has not informed us of anything of that nature at this point, and we've had extensive meetings with them. One where some major HUD officials from DC came to this meeting, and we had a meeting with Mr. Woods, and I was very, very disappointed in the way that meeting was handled, because Mr. Ward and I met with he and his staff back in December when they gave him the list of what needed to be done. And when we left that meeting, I thought he had all the answers, and he certainly convinced us that he was going to be able to respond to that and get us out of zero threshold. Zero threshold means that we have to go through HUD on everything. Everything has to get approved through them before they can vet it out or go through the whole process. And his outcome of that other meeting to the board members was, well, we're almost out of zero threshold. That wasn't the case. They were this close to putting us in a receivership and are about to give us 6 months to make some changes and make some differences at the Housing Authority.
And if we can get back to the weather,
Sure.
any injuries reported?
No injuries. I can say, like this morning, I took L&A Road to come in where I know it's low, and I did see a backed up vehicle that was clearly flooded with a debris line and everything on it. And just to go back to what Mitch was talking about with the pump stations, you know, we keep our canals at about an 8-foot level. If every canal was probably perfectly paved in concrete, it wouldn't be as much of an issue. But with the earthen canals and the power of the pumps, you can cause bank erosion. Bank erosion can cause failures in our roadways and other issues like that. Look, being a Navy man, the worst thing you can ever do to a pump is cavitation. Turning on all the pumps and engaging that with not enough suction and water coming through causes cavitation, which damages our pumps. Works the same with any types of pumps doing this type of work. And so they use electric pumps to keep the canal levels steady. And look, just like in front of my house, where the water came up to almost to my front porch, and when we luckily had a break in the storm, the pumps caught up, the street drained. And that's probably what happened by the church. The pumps, he knows through the SCADA system. I can assure you, when the phone started ringing at 3 in the morning, Mitch was ready to head to the Yenny building to monitor the SCADA system. He monitored the SCADA system. He knew which pumps came on, when they came on, and why, based on the levels of rain. And that's how we were able to, for his department to make those calls of what needed to be done. And they acted the way they needed to act.
How many pumps does the parish have, and how many were operational before the bad weather? I know you said you can't have them all on at one time.
We have over 180 pumps in our system, and before the rain event, only one was out of service, and it was at the Elmwood Pump Station. It's a pump that we are actually replacing the diesel engine, trying to get that done before the peak of hurricane season. So that was it.
You have 180, one was out of service. How many were turned on?
I'd have to get you that number, but we had, at one point in time, just about every pump we had was on. So.
Thank you.
On another note, I was just handed this. It's with great sadness that I share with you of the passing of former Councilman Thomas Jared Butch Ward. Councilman Ward is survived by his wife Pam and their 3 children and grandchildren. He served Jefferson Parish as a councilman for District 1 from 1979 until 2003. Prior to that, Mr. Ward was a Louisiana State Representative. He served as a member of the Mississippi River Bridge Authority and was a representative on the Regional Planning Commission. His service to the residents of Jefferson Parish is admirable, and I ask that we keep his family in our thoughts and prayers during this time. If you would mind, please join with me in a moment of silence for former Councilman Butch Ward. Thank you. Any other questions? We're good? Okay. Well, thank you all very much. I appreciate y'all's attendance today and helping us get this message out. And Samantha, make sure you give them the drainage number. Okay, perfect. All right.